Hi, this is Akin with PivotalDiscovery.com. We're here in the small firms communities of interest. Jon, Tim, and Jim, what do you think about the sessions at ILTA this year, and what do you expect in terms of the audience compared to years in the past?
Jon?
I think probably we're going to see a little bit smaller audience than we've seen in the past, but hopefully it's a real focus group, especially with the small firm participation. I think we're going to see a lot of smaller firms kind of come out as a bigger majority, where some of the bigger firms maybe aren't sending quite as many people as they have historically.
Jim, you were mentioning earlier you thought one of the benefits of inviting other people in your firms and the message to share when you go back from the conference. Can you elaborate on that a little?
Yeah, ILTA, it's pretty clear to people who work in IT, the IT directors and the network managers, what's going on with ILTA and how it can benefit the firm. ILTA reaches into a bunch of other areas as well, so there's benefits in ILTA for the finance and accounting areas, records management, HR, marketing, all those areas. And so what I'm trying to do is get people to take more of ILTA back to the firm with them and get other people involved, because when you join ILTA, the whole firm becomes a member, and to have 20 more people sign up at a firm is no additional cost to the firm, and there's a lot of great resources.
Great, and you also mentioned that you and Jon are going to give us some kind of a session on Wednesday. Can you tell us what that's going to be about?
So we're hosting a session on Wednesday, and it's really kind of a roundtable, and it's designed for small firm attendees. And how do you deal as a small firm? You're still competing with those firms that have 300-400 lawyers. And so how do you do it when you're a small firm? Because you still have to go to court in the same way. You still have to do discovery. You still have all those same hurdles to cross, but you don't have the same resources. So what are some of the ways we can share information as small firms? What ideas? What's working for you? How do you do teleconferencing? How do you do electronic discovery? How do you do these same things where maybe some large firms have all of that internalized, where they have just a whole litigation support department of 20 people, and you're like, wow, our whole firm is 20 people.
Sure.
So, how do you deal with that and keep getting business and all those kind of things? So, and it's really a roundtable. I mean, we don't have the answers. We're trying to find out what other people are doing too.
That's going to be a great opportunity. Jim, what are you seeing?
I think the thing is, as Tim mentioned, we still have to use the same tools that most of the larger firms use as well. It's just how we're able to do it affordably. A lot of smaller firms have lower rates, and these financial times, it's sort of a benefit to the smaller firm to be more competitive with rates than some of the larger firms are. It does offer a challenge as far as being able to do things affordably, but still have the same type of document management system, web conferencing system. And you have to have a good balance of buying stuff internally and supporting it with maybe fewer staff per attorney, as well as picking the things to outsource that you can't afford to do internally. So it's a challenge for small firms to figure out how to do that, do it well. And being in a small firm, I have 2 employees and myself. We're a little bigger than maybe some of the other firms in the small firm group, but to have limited resources where you can't really test a lot of stuff before you put it in. An organization like ILTA really gives you some value because you can compare what you're planning on doing with what other people have already done, see what's worked for them. A lot of these larger firms have a lot of resources as far as testing stuff ahead of time, and it's really a benefit to being in that group with them and seeing how those things are implemented.
Well, it's interesting because not only with the economic times, but there's a lot of questions about what the business models for law firms are going to be, and there are some interesting thoughts on obviously flat fee pricing, but also franchising. What do you think about that?
I think you are seeing a few larger firms, instead of bringing smaller firms in as branch offices, actually branding their name and forming an association with smaller firms so where they have coverage for a large area, but they're not committed to so many offices. I know I've seen more of that lately. I mean, for law firms with the hard financial times that a lot of them are seeing, there's 2 things they have to pay: salaries and for office space, and what they can do to not add that in the short term, at least. I think you're probably going to see a little more of that franchising idea. Or I think you're going to see a lot more of the referral networks where a lot of small firms are members of already, such as Lex Mundi, Harmony, some of those groups. where it's not really a formal business organization that you belong to, but it's a referral network between smaller firms where if you need a client, we're in New Mexico, and somebody in Pittsburgh has a client that needs some work done in New Mexico, they can use that referral network to find somebody.
Mm-hmm. Now, also, I don't know if you are doing this currently at your firm, but some of the law firms are partnering with some of the vendors to offer a one-stop shop. Is that currently something that you all are doing at your firms?
It depends, I think, on the nature of the project, whether you offer that as a solution. I mean, I know that sometimes when it comes to some back office stuff that gets done, like copies and things like that, we may work with our local facilities management that we're working with and have them go out into the market and maybe contract with a couple of different vendors to get some dedicated pricing and things like that to help us keep our costs down. And then that way we've got a dedicated source for sending out, whether it's just something as simple as a copy job or something like that, but also helping with electronic discovery and other types of projects that we don't have the resources in-house to do. But if we can have that company that's already working on our behalf go out and help negotiate that, if they've got relationships either locally or nationally, they might be able to help us to keep those costs down to give better service.
Great.
And the thing about those costs is they tend not to be profit centers if you're not doing it internally, because any pass-through costs you can't really mark up. It's against the rules of the ABA. So if it's something that you may have some loose business arrangements, but it's not like you're reselling vendor's service and making money off of it. So.
Yeah, I think for us it's mostly driven about client service because, like Jim said, it's just a pass-through. So we're just trying to offer that service to our clients at a reduced rate because there isn't any markup associated with it. And so in order to be able to compete with those larger firms for a similar line of business, it helps in that regard.
Right.
And frankly, a lot of the larger firms, those type of areas such as copying and faxing and stuff like that, a lot of times are not done by the firm itself. They'll have a company that comes in and works out of their office. They'll be physically located within the firm, but they'll actually be a separate firm that subcontracts for them.
Right. And sorry, Tim, go ahead.
And another piece is that the technology is getting better, and one of the ways you can help save clients money is to figure out, okay, how can I use the electronic tools I have to not have to review so much, to not have to make so many copies, to not have to get everything converted to another format for this particular software. You know, those are some other things that hopefully help the client out in the long run, drive down costs a little bit.
Right, and something fun. So you guys were talking about earlier in the group discussion, BlackBerry, iPhone, Palm Pre. What's your preference?
I have an iPhone.
I inherited a BlackBerry shop, and it works. By keeping everybody on the same device and having a gigantic plan, that helps out.
Great.
I don't have a dedicated employee for remote devices, so we stick with BlackBerries. They're per person, they're the least amount of work, and they do what we need. We get calendaring, email, contacts, browsing, phone service. So that's all we need. And we have fairly limited needs as far as BlackBerries go.
Right. Final one, gentlemen. Tell us about the Roadrunner.
Tim?
We do.
So when you come to the ILTA conference, everybody hands out stickers for their different areas. And the small firm community of interest, it's a Roadrunner. It's small, it's fast, agile, and keeps us working.
Perfect. On that note, gentlemen, enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.